Okay, are we ready to roll, Heather?
I believe we are, Your Worship.
Okay, well, I'm going to welcome everyone for yet another virtual meeting. We've kind of got the hang of it. We'd love to be back in person and love to have citizens joining us in the council chamber, but that'll come eventually. In the meantime, we do what we have to do and carry on in this online fashion. So without further ado, first item of business, Madam Clerk.
It is a roll call, Your Worship. I've taken the roll and all members of council are present.
Excellent, thank you. And next item, please.
A motion to adopt this evening's agenda, Your Worship.
Okay, the screen's doing funny things here, so I can't see everyone. So somebody want to give me a wave? Councillor Lupke, seconded by Councillor Chaboyer. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
Confirmation of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 17th.
Moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any errors or omissions? And not seeing any, so we're going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Under the order of presentations, Your Worship, we have Kyla Maslaniak from the Manitoba Urban Forest Council regarding Arbor Day in Brandon.
Very good. So welcome to Kyla again, and thanks for joining us in this virtual format. So I don't see you yet, but I think you're coming on. So I'll let you take it away. Certainly there's your presentation. So welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and councillors. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Great. And you can see my presentation, I heard, so I'll get started. My name is Kyla Maslaniak. I'm here representing the Manitoba Urban Forest Council tonight, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Arbor Day and the potential for future Arbor Day celebrations in Brandon. Briefly, I'll just introduce you to the council. The Manitoba Urban Forest Council was launched in 2019, and it was a group of us that came together in different levels of government, the University of Manitoba, industry, the International Society of Arboriculture, and just recognizing that we really need a forum for people who work in and care for Manitoba's urban forest to get together and network. It's really important to point out that the City of Brandon actually played a pretty crucial role in launching the council. Stephen Clark, who is the lead charge hand with forestry and horticulture, has been a founding member of our board and has been greatly involved with our activities. We did add 2 new board members this spring, and they were actually both from Brandon. That was Bernie Wetter and Sheila Gonti. So the goal of the council really is to protect, maintain, and enhance our urban forests, and we want to do that through promoting best practices in arboriculture, safe work, provide opportunities for professional development, and also networking opportunities. We do maintain ties to the Canadian Urban Forest Network, which is a national group that supports urban forestry in the country. So we actually kind of launched the idea for the council with a workshop in Portage, and then we did a workshop in Morden. We brought in a speaker from Wisconsin to provide information on tree planting techniques and proper tree pruning techniques, and we provided information on forest pests and invasive species. We do maintain a website as well, and we did host a number of free online webinars over the winter. And we really want to, going forward, raise awareness with the general public about the importance of Manitoba's urban forests. And so one of the ways we identified to do that was to increase Arbor Day celebrations in Manitoba. So there's a long history with Arbor Day. It was first, I guess, officially recognized in 1872 in Nebraska, but it's celebrated worldwide now in different ways. Typically, it's an event that's held in the spring annually. Winnipeg has Arbor Day on the first Saturday of June, and it's done through Trees Winnipeg, and it's just an event that's been growing over the years. It's really popular. It gets the family out, and it's just a great opportunity for people to get out and learn more about their trees and urban forests. So, you know, given that we have a lot of representation on our board from the City of Brandon was a great place to start promoting Arbor Day. We were working with the Keystone Center as well, and thank you very much, Mayor Rick Kress, for signing the proclamation that now recognizes Arbor Day in Brandon as the first Saturday in June, in keeping with the date in Winnipeg. I'll just briefly say why I think we should celebrate Arbor Day and promote urban forests in Manitoba. There's, you know, I could talk for a long time about how wonderful trees are, but just a few points. Trees definitely support our economy directly and indirectly. I mean, directly in employment for foresters, the lumber industry, nurseries, and arborists. Trees also encourage tourism. You know, people like to go hiking. Obviously, most people prefer to camp in campgrounds that have trees. And trees, considering the harsh realities of Manitoba's weather, I think we're all experiencing that, or we had a much cooler day today, but the weekend and last week was pretty intense. And so the benefits of trees to the prairies are pretty evident on days like that. Certainly saves money with our cooling costs, but also shades our gray infrastructure, as we call it, asphalt. And then, of course, you know, trees can also help protect us in the winter and reduce our heating costs. And trees, I always say, are human habitat. They beautify what can be otherwise harsh urban landscapes, and they do improve property values. So we met with the Keystone Center. They're keen on Arbor Day, just as the city is, so we're really excited about this. And so we marked the first Arbor Day in Brandon by planting a white spruce tree at the Keystone Center. White spruce is the official tree of Manitoba, and we like the idea of doing this because we planted the tree near some of what are these more historically known trees thought to have been planted over 100 years ago by Henry Louis Patmore, who's a well-known nurseryman in this area, and really, in my mind, is of importance to arboriculture and horticulture in Canada, and certainly Manitoba. And so to kind of bookend, you know, with the planting of a new tree, we wanted to recognize the historical significance of the trees at the Keystone Center. So we did nominate a number of the trees close to Clara, that beautiful outdoor pavilion that the Keystone has erected. We have nominated some of those eastern cottonwoods under the Heritage Tree Program, the Provincial Heritage Tree Program, and so we really do look forward to working with the Keystone on this in the future. So obviously, unfortunately, we couldn't have in-person celebrations for Arbor Day this year. So we kind of viewed this as a soft launch of Arbor Day, and, you know, the Keystone Center and the city officials we've met with have been really supportive, so we're really excited about that. You know, I have some pictures here from the city of Winnipeg with their celebrations. They do tree planting activities, of course, throughout the city. They have contests with high school students, you know, poster contests. They do craft sessions with kids. The arborists do tree climbing demonstrations for the public, and they actually get the public up in the trees and kids up in the trees and up in bucket trucks and introduce them to arboriculture. And then they have pavilions and information booths where people can learn more about urban trees, and arborists will provide some free advice to people on how to care for their trees. So it's really a great event, and we look forward to doing this in Brandon, and then also using this as a template going forward to get other communities in Manitoba to celebrate Arbor Day as well. So we certainly do look forward to working with the city on this and the Keystone Center going forward. And so that concludes my presentation tonight, Your Worship, and thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to me tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Kyla. Excellent presentation. I think most citizens are extremely proud of our, urban forest and all of our trees, and take great pride and enjoyment in them. And in fact, I would say the pandemic, if nothing else, has probably highlighted and refocused attention on that. At least the trees didn't have to close or anything during the pandemic, and have been available for us all. And we've certainly seen a huge uptick in people using the outdoors, and especially our walking paths and parks. So it certainly probably refocused attention on the trees as well. So thank you for focusing it even more, and we do look forward to next year being able to celebrate this with activities in person. So I will open the floor for any questions or comments that any member of council may have. Presentation was quite comprehensive, so Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I thank you very much for the presentation, Kyla. And I just by chance had the Clark Drive photo as my backdrop this evening, which is a pretty prominent tree canopy in the city. My question does the Manitoba Urban Forest Council integrate it all with the schools, or have programming that can, work for youth to try and get them involved? I know, quite often we talk about youth being the drivers to get the parents to change a lot of times. Is there programming available maybe through the website or something that would engage youth that way?
Yeah, we're pretty young at this point, and as I said, I think the initial focus was trying to bring people together who work in our urban forest, particularly recognizing that a lot of them aren't urban foresters, and they needed a way to communicate with one another and learn from one another. But going forward, yes, Arbor Day is sort of one of our starting places for trying to engage the public more, and certainly youth, with our urban forests. So yeah, we do look forward to expanding on that, and it's an excellent point, because yes, getting the youth involved is just so important.
Great, thank you, and thanks for your presentation this evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Cameron. I'm not seeing other hands up, but before we let you go, thank you very much for all of that, and also to pass on to our local members, our own City of Brandon's Stephen Clark, and then to people from the private sector, Bernie Wetter and Sheila Gonti. So excellent that all of you are providing your commitment and your expertise to this area, and we're certainly all the better for it. So sure appreciate it. So again, thank you very much for your presentation, and good luck with everything moving forward.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. So a motion to receive the presentation would be in order, please. Councillor Cameron, go ahead, please.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the presentation by Kyla Maslenik of Manitoba Urban Forest Council with respect to an update on Arbor Day in Brandon be received.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Cullen. Any discussion? Seeing none, I think we're ready for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Under the order of delegations, Your Worship, a presentation from Jennifer Mose on behalf of the Park Community Centre and Jillian Sullivan on behalf of Sneath Projects regarding potential repairs for Park Community Centre.
Thank you very much. So again, I think I can see them kind of logging on, so I'll turn it over to Jennifer and Jillian, whoever's going to present. The floor is yours.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Cross City Council. It is nice to see you again. My name is Jennifer Mose, and I'm here on behalf of the Park Community Centre, and I'm joined tonight with Drew Caldwell, board members, Drew Caldwell, Noel Mose, and Jillian Sullivan, the General Manager from Sneath Projects. in regards to the proposal for the completion and the work to be done. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Jillian.
Okay, hi there everyone. Thanks for having me this evening. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of my connection with the Park Community Centre first. I live about a block and a half away from the Park Community Centre, and over the years my family and I have used the centre numerous times for kids' birthday parties, Beyblade tournaments, all kinds of family events. We've been to craft sales and record sales and community garden events. I was the community garden mentor for a season. So the Park Community Centre is a big part of our lives. And when the board of directors contacted me to put together a proposal, I was very happy to work with them. So I think that in my proposal, I have sort of touched on everything that the city laid out as issues with the building from their May 2017 inspection report. I've had numerous subtrades through the building to take a look at the various issues. I visited the Valley View Community Center to see how they put together their rink flooding equipment. And I think that in this proposal, you'll see that fixing the existing structure is the most economical way forward. I think it's more economical than tearing it down and building another green space, which there is one across the street. Definitely cheaper than a whole new building. And I just think that this community center is a very valued asset in this community. So if you have any questions on my proposal, I would welcome them.
Thank you very much. Before I open up for questions from council, I just wanted to make sure that Jennifer was also done, or if your role was just to introduce Jillian. I just want to make sure that I wasn't kind of jumping in ahead here and cutting anybody off before we open it up to council.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm actually really excited that Jillian was interested in hopping on board with this NEAT project. And if you take a look at all of the different additions we're going to be adding with the commercial kitchen, and that's a really big one. I know that from being at Global Markets in many summers, having use of the kitchen, and it hasn't been available for a long time. So I think that that's a very, very important part of the new building, or the new old building, or the old new building, whichever way we want to look at it. And also, I've touched base a little bit about how the Riverbank Discovery Center works, and I know we're a community center, but we're planning on being a lot more than that. We've had the Manitoba Métis Federation reach out wanting to start a group for the summer, and unfortunately, that if we're right in the middle of renovations, that won't be something we'll be able to do this summer. But it was really nice to see that, they're still asking and wanting to be part of the community center. We have people that are living behind the center right now, and I feel like it's really important that we can offer them something, maybe a drop-in center, something that they don't have to be using our backyard behind our shed as a washroom. That's really becoming a big hassle. If we want to look at it that way, it's very unfortunate that that's happening. And I know if we had a center, it would be much different. I would really back to the we're incorporated since 2016, which is something else that we are our own entity, and we have been falling under the community centers, of course, because that's how it's been. Although we are incorporated, just like the Riverbank Discovery Center, we do have our number. We work very hard for that, and so that's something else that I really wanted to bring up. And the people that are coming forward from the center, seeing people on the page talking about memories and reminiscing, it's something that it would be such a shame to not be able to carry into the future. So I really, really appreciate you going through this project and having us here and having Jillian here to be able to talk about this a little bit. And I'm really grateful and thankful.
Thanks very much. So I think that probably rounds it out, and the rest of it will probably come out through questions. So we will open up the floor to members of council that may have questions of either Jillian or Jennifer. So go ahead, please. We may have stumped them. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll throw one in the mix here. So, pardon me. Just wondering, Jillian, in your work and looking at the building, obviously we are dealing with a building that's older to start with. With the work that would take place there, in your professional opinion, what type of lifespan does that provide the building? And just wondering if I could get your take on it. You know, obviously, the work would bring it to a position that it could be opened again, but what type of long-term lifespan does it provide?
Well, I think the proposal is for sort of taking the floor right out of the existing main hall and pouring a structural concrete slab and tying the exterior walls into that slab. So with that, as far as structural concerns, I think the building will stand for, 50 to 100 more years. It's going to be a sound building. The proposal also includes all new shingles and roofing, some new ductwork, electrical. So it's like a revamped building. So you would have the longevity of a new built house.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. I don't see other hands up, so I'm going to toss one in again to Jillian. So how would you, without getting into every kind of element, how would you describe the scope of your review of the project versus what city administration had previously looked at? I think that they had considered the structural and code issues primarily, but in your work, did you do precisely that? Did it go beyond that scope, do you feel? Maybe just give us a minute or two on that.
So this proposal, it includes all updating all of the plumbing, because the plumbing is definitely deteriorating in the building as well. As far as bringing it to code, we've included all new 3-foot entry doors, wheelchair accessible ramp, and accessible door. We would have to do some reworking of the back area to create a properly accessible washroom. But other than that, I think it would be up to today's codes.
Beyond that, what about any aesthetics, just sort of general kind of facelifting, like the previous scope really would have made the building sound, but it would have probably looked pretty much. This includes,
so to gain access to the main hall, to pour the concrete for the floor, we'd have to cut out almost all of the west wall. And so that would all be reframed. The whole exterior would be restuccoed and patched and painted. The interior gets new paneling and baseboard, new hardwood floor in the main hall, new flooring throughout the rest of the hall, a new commercial kitchen. It's small, but it's functional. Everything would look new, all new lighting, new fixtures in the washrooms. So it would feel like a new hall.
Yeah, quite a facelift. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for that, Jillian. And I've got Councillor Chaboyer.
Thank you, Worship, to the presenter. In your in redoing this building, would it reduce the operating cost? Because you mentioned that there would be some upgrades to HVAC, like the heating systems and lighting. Would that reduce the operating cost moving forward?
Yeah, it would. So part of the proposal includes applying for the energy efficiency grant through Efficiency Manitoba for lighting, for low flow fixtures, for some new insulation on the exterior in some areas. So it would reduce the cost.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I have Councillor Barry and then Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Jillian. Jillian, one of the things that I noticed when I went through on the tour, and I mean, Park Community Center to me, it was the very first place I learned to play hockey many, many years ago when I was a 7-year-old living on 16th Street. So it does have a little bit of a dear place in my heart. But one of the concerns I had when we did the tour was when we went down the basement and looked into the crawl space was the foundation structure of the whole building. When you get a first glance at it, it's ugly, like it's scary looking. And what would the plan be to basically remediate that so that, well, number one, the building would be safe, and number two, we can get it back up to capacity for what we'd like to see number-wise in there? Because, I mean, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a planner, I'm not a person as talented as you are in the job you do, but I just was looking at like, wow, how are they ever going to fix this? That was my first response.
Well, that was my first response too, because I crawled through that crawl space a couple times with a flashlight and went, I don't think that we can fix it, not simply. So then I had a few other colleagues come and take a look, and I think our plan in this proposal is to actually cut the floor out, the floor joists, pack in gravel, and pour a structural concrete slab inside, tying the exterior walls to the concrete slab. So it would be like a whole new foundation for that section of the building.
Okay, thank you for that response. That's kind of what I was hoping. There was a different idea that maybe would come forward. Thank you.
Yeah, we discussed many different options. I talked to Ron Fay about his take on the building, and I think that this is the simplest and most cost-effective and will be there forever. So.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And Councillor Desjardins?
Thank you, for your worship. More of a comment than anything. I just want to thank the board, to thank Jen for her passion, and I really want to thank you, Jillian, and the Sneath Group for taking some time to thoughtfully go through this and do some creative problem solving and come to council with a proposal that up to this point goes above and beyond what we've even been asking for as far as getting the park back up to a place that could be an asset to the community again. So I want to show my appreciation as a councillor and as a community member for that. And regardless of what council decides, we're grateful to have you in the community. So much appreciated.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Desjardins. I think we've got Councillor Fawcett next.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship. And this is good to see, and I appreciate Jillian taking the time to look at all this. I've got a lot of respect for what she does out there. She's good at her job. But I am just sort of wondering, in the long run, if we are looking at doing this, is there not an obligation for us to tender?
Oh yes, I realize if the city goes ahead with this process, that it will definitely go to tender, and I'm happy to bid. But I was also happy to put together this proposal just to help the Park Community Center board, save the center. So
yeah, that was, and I basically understood that, but I just didn't know if the general public understood, because there's no request for funding in this. There's no, this isn't what it is. It was just that they were able to get somebody that can look at it and could give an assessment. So just that's more for the public.
I'll bid on it.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, both Councillor Fawcett and Jillian. So that was good to clear the air on that. So everybody certainly understands the process that we're kind of obligated to. So that's good. I'm not seeing other hands up. I welcome any before we close them off. But I think it was a great and informative presentation. It certainly does kind of open everyone's eyes to other ways of going about this. So that certainly has been valuable. So we will likely be asking our administration to review the presentation, do a bit of analysis to come back to council fairly shortly, but not seeing any other questions. So thank you to both presenters, to Jillian and Jen and your board, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. So a motion to receive and possibly to refer would be in order. Councillor Desjardins, go ahead, please.
Thank you, through your worship. I move that the presentation from Park Community Center, Jennifer Mose and Sneath Group, represented by Jillian Sullivan, be received, and further that the information be taken back by administration, refer back to council after they've had a chance to review.
Thank you. There's a seconder, please. Seconded by Councillor Parker. Any discussion? Mover wish to speak?
No, just very briefly, your worship, this is, one of our more challenging decisions that we face in the coming months, and it's great to have all the evidence and all the options on the table for us when we deliberate this decision in front of the public in the not too distant future. So thank you for that information to the Park Center and to the Sneath Group.
Thank you, Councillor Desjardins. Other discussion? Not seeing any other, so just for clarification, the motion is to receive and certainly refer it back to administration for analysis and reporting back to council. So I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the presenters. And next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Under the order of committee reports, your worship, we have a report from the Poverty Committee.
Thank you. Is that Councillor Lupke tonight? Go ahead, please, Councillor Lupke.
Hey, thank you, your worship. Just the written report as was distributed to council. A recent presentation to the Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association by the province of Manitoba indicated the Canada-Manitoba Housing Benefit would provide rent supplements to individuals via 3 streams: youth, homelessness, and mental health or addictions. The homelessness stream is currently offered only in the city of Winnipeg, with plans to expand across the province in the next 2 to 3 years. Upon review, the Poverty Committee felt that a demonstrated immediate need exists for this service within the city of Brandon and rural Manitoba, and we approved a motion at our May 12th meeting that recommended Brandon City Council write a letter to the province of Manitoba to request the acceleration of the province-wide delivery date for the Canada-Manitoba Housing Benefit Rent Supplement for individuals experiencing homelessness. Just as a little bit of a background, as some on council may recall, the Housing First Rent Supplement 2-year pilot program took place in Brandon beginning in May of 2017, and at least 48 vulnerable families and individuals in Brandon who were homeless or were at risk of becoming homeless benefited from that program, which is one of the reasons why we feel there's a shown need within our community for this program to be expanded and include at least the city of Brandon and rural Manitoba. Placing unsheltered people in long-term housing before attempting to resolve their mental health or addiction problems is a proven method to deal with social issues, and homelessness is a symptom of something else and is challenging for people to get off drugs or deal with their mental health issues when they're living in a tent or a park. The ability to have people avoid homelessness should be a cornerstone for addressing social issues. A rent supplement program not only provides financial support and connects participants with other resources to improve their futures over the longer term. So we are asking that we as mayor and council write the province of Manitoba to expand this program to the city of Brandon and to rural Manitoba. And we feel there's a bit of an urgency to this as the intake date is slated to begin on July 1st of 2021.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lupke. We will be entertaining a couple of motions here shortly, I believe, but prior to that, any questions of Councillor Lupke on the Poverty Committee's report? We may get into discussion when the motions are put, but in case there's anything overview wanted to be asked first, that's fine. Seeing none, I think probably it'd be best to move the receipt of the report followed by the motion that's proposed. Councillor Lupke.
Okay. I will move that this report of the Poverty Committee dated May 12, 2020 be received.
And seconder, please. Councillor Chaboyer. Okay, probably don't have any discussion on receiving the report, so I think we're probably ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And carry on, Councillor Lupke.
All right. I will move that the province of Manitoba be advised that the Council of the City of Brandon and its Poverty Committee strongly encourage an acceleration of the province-wide delivery date for the Canada-Manitoba Housing Benefit Rent Supplement for individuals experiencing homelessness, and further that the province of Manitoba be requested to collaborate with the City of Brandon and our community organizations on initiatives to assist with dealing with homelessness, addictions, and mental health issues in our community.
Thank you. And seconder, I think it's Councillor Desjardins. Mover wish to speak. You did go over it fairly well in your report, but go ahead if you have anything to add.
I think I've covered the issue we have with the Canada-Manitoba Housing Benefit. On the second part of the motion, I just want to say that I feel that sometimes our community is falling through the cracks when it comes to some of the initiatives being put forward by the province of Manitoba to deal with some of the social issues, whether it's homelessness, addiction, or mental health issues. And I think we as council need to encourage the province of Manitoba to get more involved on initiatives occurring in our city and in rural Manitoba. I did do a bit of background on this and just look through some of the announcements that the province has made since the start of this year, and certainly there have been a few that deal with some of these issues that are helping to deal with them in other communities, and I do feel that they need to take a lead role in dealing with some of these issues in our city. I think we as a city are taking a lot of initiatives. When you look at some of the things we have done recently, adding a community wellness coordinator to our staff, our continued work of both poverty and the age-friendly committees. We are working toward the establishment of the Brandon Wellness Collaborative, and most recently, of course, Your Worship, in your State of the City address, talked about the Downtown Safety Task Force, which I'm sure will also include some discussion about these social issues. So I feel like we are taking a role, and I want the province to be a collaborator and a partner in some of the things that we need to do to address some of these issues in our community.
I think we lost Mayor Crest.
Yes, you're up.
No, sometimes Rick just does this. He just stays really still.
No.
Well, maybe I'll keep things going because I had a follow up with my hand up. Heather, am I allowed to do that through the mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Desjardins.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So through your worship to the rest of council, just to support Councillor Lupke's words there, and when he was mentioning Housing First and it falling under the Housing First purview, it wasn't just for Housing First clients that were eligible to receive that rent supplement. This went to individuals who were potentially at imminent risk of homelessness, who were receiving the portable housing benefit through mental health, and they were going to get cut off. And so this was saving people from experiencing homelessness and putting food on the table for single parent families, and it had a meaningful impact on the lives of Brandonites. I can share that with you wholeheartedly, that those 48 individuals stayed sheltered for that time, right? So it's such it's not a lot of money per person per month, but it has such a meaningful impact. And so for Brandon to have been a pilot site for a successful program, and then for the funding to get pulled, and then to deliver a parallel program in Winnipeg feels a little off, right? So I think the point is we demonstrated the success here in Brandon, and we need to bring it back, because right now Housing First is likely covering rent supplement through funding that should be going to supports, to workers, to finding employment, to doing all sorts of other things, and instead they're probably having to pull money to provide additional rent supplements. And so that's a draw on the homelessness partnering strategy funding.
Thank you very much. I apologize. I suddenly went poof and like my connection dropped there for a minute. So I hope you can hear me back on again, and I'll get. I don't see other hands up, and I think we probably got it covered. In addition to what I did hear Councillor Desjardins indicate, hang on, I'll get Councillor Chaboy here in a second. I think, the province have done some things as well. So I think in our letter, we'll certainly highlight some of the things that they have done so that they don't think we're just, completely kind of looking at the bad side, that we've had quite a number of housing projects, kind of come up lately. They have transferred some funds in, as council is aware, that can be used for housing to a significant degree. So I think that there'll be an interest in engaging and working on other projects. So I think this motion's excellent, and we want to get on it. And Councillor Chaboy.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to add and reach out to council to understand that all we're asking for is some fairness too, because the City of Winnipeg is launching this program, and I know that they're dealing with homeless issues, but the City of Brandon is as well as other areas of Manitoba. So in just all fairness, we want to be treated the same way. And they mentioned that it would take 2 to 3 years before they'd extend it outside of Winnipeg. So we just thought it was important to address this concern soon, that we could be included. Thanks.
Well put. Any other questions or comments before we call the question? Not seeing any other hands up, I believe. So, all right, I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much to Councillor Lupke and the whole Poverty Committee. And we weren't aware of other committee reports, but at this point in time, sometimes there are some verbal ones. So, Councillor Desjardins, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through your worship, and I'll ask Councillor Fawcett to chime in on anything I might forget to mention, but we thought we would provide a quick update on the inner workings of the Brandon Urban Aboriginal Peoples Council, and also, commit to some more regular updates. I think that we're going to ask our community coordinator to come in maybe quarterly to present to council on all the work that's being done in BUPAC and the partners and stakeholders that belong to BUPAC as well, all the work that they're doing in community. So I do want to acknowledge that we had our first meeting with our new community coordinator, Michelle Vitorno. She did a great job. We had good attendance. We had a visit from our presentation from Noah Wilson from Futurepreneur. It might not be Wilson. If I got the last name wrong, I apologize. But Noah from Futurepreneur, he really knocked our socks off. He introduced us to some economic employment, self-employment funding, some entrepreneurship funding that's available through their organization, available to assist First Nation, Métis, and Inuit between the ages of 18 and 39, and their partners in the international funding group. So just lots of opportunities for youth that are interested in starting their own business, and thought we might even bring him in for a little informal for council, just so he could showcase and highlight some of that stuff. But the rest of the community needs to hear about that. And we had some great updates from our education partners, in particular Brandon School Division. And Brandon School Division has been doing a lot of cultural teachings with the Brandon Friendship Center. Elder Frank Tatchen and his wife Deb and Gail have put together some programming there. So there are a lot of youth that have been taking some land-based teachings virtually, unfortunately, but still they're getting students are getting a lot out of that. And Acting Superintendent Matt Gertson presented on Minecraft education, and a really unique program where students get to get a sense of what it was like to be living in the Fort Garry area pre-colonial times from an Anishinaabe perspective. So learning about the clan system, learning how to do how to set up a teepee and do a birch bark canoe. Really fantastic way to immerse students in cultural teachings, because as you know, if you have any kids my age, Minecraft is all the rage, right? And so you're speaking their language. It's just such an easy fit, and you can tell that the students are just so immersed and engaged in it. It's such a great idea, so I hope you see more of that. And we did talk a little bit about some of the naming potentially down in Riverbank Discovery Center and maybe in the area, and how we need to develop a process on how we'll start naming streets and pathways in the community, and the role that BUPAC will play. And then I'm sure I'm missing a couple things. So I'll let Jeff chime in.
Thank you very much, Councillor Desjardins. Go ahead, Councillor Fossa.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Councillor Desjardins, you actually missed nothing. You were right on Noah's last name. It was Wilson, and remains Wilson, I guess. But I do want to just do a quick reminder, because I think that Councillor Desjardins and I will try to do a better job of giving our reports, because we're doing an awful lot with the Urban Aboriginal People Council, and we maybe aren't sharing that publicly enough. I just want to do a quick reminder of the representation on that council. There is the 4 citizen representatives, the decision makers that are on there, from the MMF, ACC, Brandon University, Brandon School Division, DOTC, Brandon Friendship Center, Sioux Valley Dakota Nation, Prairie Mountain Health, Brandon School Division, and we all work together very closely on a lot of this. And in the last decade, we've seen lots of things done. And His Worship was able to, in the last little bit here, call on our sort of our friends and partners, because we do have what I believe is a strong trust relationship built between all the partners. And when questions are asked, we work together. And I think we're strengthening that all the time. And I think Councillor Desjardins and I will do a better job expressing that at council a little bit more regularly. We often will get into it, but we just ourselves to keep working. I think we'll put it in public a little more. And Michelle is a real great asset. And I also want to mention that Ron Bowles was at our meeting and has become already a sense of valuable asset to this. That's good.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Desjardins.
Thanks. I forgot to mention a shout out to one of our newly crowned executive committee members, Janine Peltier, her name out there and took one for the team. So she's going to sit on our exec with Councillor Fawcett and I'll be able to plant them myself. So kudos to you, Janine, for putting your name forward, and we're lucky to have you on BUPAC.
Thank you very much. We've got quite a bit of feedback. Maybe ask everyone to go on mute when you're not speaking. That seems to help, although I think almost everybody is. So I'm not sure what the source of it is there. Sounds like a highway. Yeah, thank you very much for that update, and I think it will be valuable to have regular updates from BUPAC, and so I'm really pleased to hear that. And this last week or so, as everyone knows, the findings of the residential school in Kamloops certainly shone a national light, and of course we have a situation here in Brandon as well, and so that also focused quite a bit of attention, although there'd been lots of work done. Again, as Councillor Fawcett put it, with our partners, we're quite engaged with Sioux Valley Dakota Nation on that project, as well as the landowner at Turtle Mountain Crossing. And were it not for the pandemic, I know we would have been much farther along in a proper memorial out there, and so that's kind of ramping back up again, but certainly with the national attention that we did receive, we also got some good assistance from BOOTPAC and especially the community coordinator, Michelle Letourneau, in terms of some of the messaging and research required. So I'm grateful for that, as is our administration and communications staff on that. So again, it was excellent to have the resources of BOOTPAC just this week alone. So thank you very much. So yeah, that's excellent. We're very much looking forward to having those regular updates. It's going to be excellent for council and for the general public to hear the work of BOOTPAC. So thank you. Any other, pardon me, I shouldn't have allowed for any questions that any councillor may have had for either Councillors Desjarlais or Fawcett on the BOOTPAC report. Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much. And again, open it up for any other committee reports that we may not have been aware of prior. Okay, not seeing any. Then a motion to accept the BOOTPAC report would be in order, please. Moved by Councillor Fawcett, seconded by Councillor Cullen. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
The order of inquiries, Your Worship.
Inquiries. I'll start with Councillor Frangi.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I had two inquiries from residents. One from the property owner of property number 37 on Queens Crescent. During my campaign, and I had a conversation, and he was concerned about the city land between his property and property number 39. He was proposing that the city should do something about the property because it's been just sitting there. There are 3 poles in front and back, so to prevent vehicle access. When I looked at it, it seemed to be a back lane, but I think it's being used for pedestrian. And he is proposing that the city should do something about it. And I didn't go into any details with the owner, but I told him, of course, if I get elected, I'll bring that into the council table, and then we'll see, how far we can go with that.
Thank you very much. So having provided that in advance allows administration to provide a response. So City Manager Ron Bowles is ready for a response for us. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Crest, and through to Councillor Frangi. So it's great to see that you're following up with some questions that were brought to you during your campaign, and it's good to see the first question. So this response is provided by Ryan Nichols. So he is your Director of Planning and Buildings Department. And Ryan says, the land to the north of the residential property is a lane right-of-way that is used as an informal pedestrian connection. The lane is also used by Hydro for overhead electrical work. The city has no plans for the lane, but we can certainly send out crews if the grass needs to be cut or generally property upkeep is needed. He also went on to say if the resident is looking to purchase the land, then he can reach out to our property coordinator, Angie Robertson, and he's provided her phone number and email address, and she'd be happy to help him out with next steps and options.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowles. And I think you have another inquiry, Councillor Frangi, so go ahead, please.
Yes, Your Worship. The second one actually was a concern about the safety in the area of Meadows School. I received an email last week from a resident that seemed to be a bit involved in keeping eyes in the community there and around the Meadows School. And I think he's in IT in security cameras. And I believe from his email, he has security cameras set up in his backyard. Sometime helping the neighbors find out about break-ins and stuff like that. So he sent me a long email. He wanted to know what needs to be done when it comes to the safety in the area. There has been lots of incidents that he mentioned in his email. So in order for me to follow up, I contacted the middle school principal, which I know, and we had a discussion, and he said, yeah, there has been few incidents in the area and around the school parking lot, lots of criminal activities, and from my understanding, it seemed like just, midnight drug dealings and things like that, and the police been contacted a few times. So I told him, again, I'll reach out to the council, and we'll see how to address that issue.
Thank you very much. And again, City Manager Ron Bowles has gotten a response prepared for us. So go ahead, please.
I sure do. And this response through Mayor Crest to Councillor Frangi is provided by Randy Lewis, and he's your Deputy Police Chief. And so Council received a written summary, which there's a lot of data that came behind this summary from your Deputy Police Chief. I'm going to skip down though to the summary at the end, and then I'll read the rest of it because I think it provides some context. So in summary, the Brandon Police Service data shows that the level of criminal activity in the Meadows Ward is low compared to the rest of the city. For the most part, aside from increased calls as a result of a specific address, a few blocks from the Meadows School, and with a few at the new hotel, which opened in 2021, there's no notable increase in social disorder or crime in the area. Now, the Brandon Police Service is planning to address any concerns with extra patrols when time allows in the area. So that's the summary, and now I'll just go back up to the top and read the rest. So Mr. Lewis says, on the crime stats and situation in the Meadows Ward, the persons and property crimes have maintained relatively consistent in the area. There's no significant increases. That said, there is a 23% increase in total calls for service in that area as compared to the 5-year average. So disturbance calls and suspicious persons calls are also up. Further analysis of this trend shows that the vast majority of disturbance calls for service in the Meadow Ward area are dealing with a specific residence in the area that is a few blocks from the school. So it's not that close. There are very few such calls near the school. While other crimes are up in 2021, it is important to note that 21 of the calls are COVID calls for service, and 61 are traffic stops, which represents a large number of the calls that are not relevant to the concern raised by Councillor Frangi, or an indicator of criminal activity in the area. The Meadows Ward call for service certainly has increased, but as explained above, this is accounted for by an increase in disturbance calls to one address a few blocks from the Meadows School, as well as an increase in suspicious persons calls around the new hotel in the ward. And calls for that are COVID related, and increased traffic stops, and increase in traffic warnings, and finally an increase in info calls. And then I've already read the summary to you, so that's the end of that response for Councillor Frangi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowles. Thank you very much, Councillor Frangi, for bringing that up. So obviously they're on top of it, but we'll try and put in some added patrols when time allows, and keep an eye on that area. So again, things escalate. You can certainly tell your resident to let us know. BPS is always happy to be kept informed. Thank you very much. And I believe the next inquiry we had was from Councillor Chaboyer. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Worship. A citizen called me about a sidewalk replacement program or policy that the city has had in the past. In past practice, the city would replace 12 city sidewalk blocks annually, and it was a budget line item that was clearly showed to our citizens. Does this program still exist? And if so, where can the citizens find the list of which sidewalks are being replaced this year and into the future?
Thank you very much. And again, back to Mr. Bowles for response.
So this response is provided by Kyle Winters, your acting manager of infrastructure. And Kyle says that while we do not have a policy regarding specific number of sidewalk replacements, we do have an annual budget that we typically exhaust for sidewalk improvements. This year, we have $375,000 budgeted, and with that, we are able to include accessible sidewalk ramps at approximately 30 locations, sidewalk replacements on the 2000 and 2200 block of College Avenue, crosswalk improvements on McDermott Drive at Vincent Massey, and an intersection of Victoria Avenue. So it's a couple of crosswalks, a sidewalk replacement on Willier Drive between Princess and Rosser, sidewalk replacements on the 800 block of 4th Street. So that's a bit of a list of this year's projects. And then Mr. Winters goes on to say that the replacement projects are chosen based on condition assessment of the sidewalk network. And the city has an assessment that was recently completed. So we haven't had a chance to get through that and look at future projects in the capital budget as of yet. So stay tuned. It's currently shown as a lump sum called sidewalk replacement in the 10-year capital budget. So, and this will help your resident a little bit, the 2021 sidewalk replacement projects can be found online at the following link. And so there was a link provided in what was sent to council today. And it's an excellent map there. And so in there, if they just click on active transportation tab, up pops a map and it shows where all of the sidewalk, well, the active transportation replacements, which is most of what we talked about. So that's your answer from Mr. Kyle Winters.
Thank you, Worship, through to our city manager, Mr. Bowles, and and for Kyle Winters, our acting manager of infrastructure. I appreciate the detail in the report. I think those are discussions that we usually have around budget time, but it is so important to take a look at this part of infrastructure every once in a while and realize that sidewalks are important for our safety. A sidewalk crack can make a difference between life and death for some people. So, yeah, it's nice to see that we've exhausted the budget amount, and I think that council agrees that this type of infrastructure is something that is incredibly important every year. So thanks for the update, and if you don't mind, I'll share that report with the citizen that asked about it.
Thanks very much. I might add that in addition, this is actual sort of capital replacement side, really through the kind of engineering department, but then on the operations department, we have a sidewalk maintenance program as well that is quite extensive, and that involves a lot of kind of grinding down of cracks, and heaves and what have you. Some of the unsafe things that arise. The sidewalk's not really completely ready for replacement, or at least until it's waiting its turn. But we do try to keep them safe by kind of grinding off those rough edges, and so that's a fairly extensive operation as well. It's done by another department, and maybe we'll get an update from them at a future meeting. So thanks for raising the importance of sidewalks, Councillor Chaboyer.
Yeah. Thank you, Worship.
And Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a follow-up comment slash question. In regards to the evaluation, because I know that we have been waiting as a council for that sidewalk assessment evaluation to be complete, and I would, as a councillor, would like to know what the results were of that, because I know that that assessment, like as you alluded to, Mayor Kress, won't just be for new sidewalks, but it will also inform the maintenance and repair of those sidewalks. And I know that accessibility is of vital importance now, and certainly there's an Accessibility Act, and so this might be a matter of policy too to decide, which sidewalks are going to be done next based on, overall use or so on and so forth. So I just love to know what the evaluation is being used, the matrix, if there is one, and timelines, so that we could inform our residents who, a lot of them do have some concerns around certain areas, right, for mobility and accessibility challenges. So I think it would be helpful for us to have that information at our disposal.
Thanks very much. I think we'd probably, unless the city manager has anything to add, we likely would take that under advisement. Would probably warrant an extra special session, as we would often have, of council to go over that. I know that practically every councillor has a great interest in sidewalks and through to our citizens, obviously. So again, Mr. Bowles may have something to add. If not, I think that Patrick Pulak also has a hand up, but I'll go to you first, Ron, if you've got anything to add. Then Patrick has probably something to add for us.
No, I would just, your worship, I was going to say that we should have one of our asset management experts answer that, and that would be Mr. Pulak.
Go ahead there, Mr. Pulak.
Through your worship to Councillor Desjardins, certainly we can share that information with you. If we're going to do an informal session where we're sharing that information, we've done condition assessments on pathways and streets, so we can all do this as a kind of a condition assessment informal, if you wish, and how it fits into our asset management program. So I think that would be a good session.
It definitely would. We got a few on our plate at the moment. Once we kind of get caught up with some good big projects, the city clerk loves adding these to her list to fit in for us. So thank you very much. Any other inquiries that we may not have been aware of? We could take those now. Not seeing any. Thank you very much. We can move on to the next item, please.
The order of announcements, your worship.
Any announcements? Again, we have precious less than we usually do, but Councillor Lukey, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. For those that may not have seen this, for our general public, Physio First Food Drive-Through, that's a mouthful, it's taking place this Saturday, June the 12th. And if you remember, they had quite a successful drive-through for the Samaritan House Food Bank in the winter months. So this is kind of a spring-summer version. It's a drive-through event, so no problems with the health restrictions in that regard. You can drop off your non-perishable food items at the Samaritan House Food Bank, 820 Pacific Avenue between noon and 3 p.m. To get there, travel east on Pacific Avenue and pull in front of the building, and a volunteer will be there to accept your generous donation. So encourage our community to be involved with the food drive-through this Saturday. And I can just add that we did have a very brief update on the Samaritan House Food Bank at our poverty committee meeting in May. And they averaged or have seen an increase in their food hamper program every month so far in 2021. And averaged 1,500 hampers per month in the 3 months of February, March, and April. So it certainly is a need, and it'd be nice to restock their shelves this Saturday.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lukey. That's an excellent announcement, and draw attention to that very important program. Any other announcements? Councillor Desjardins.
Yeah, thank you for your worship. Just to let everyone know who might not be aware that June is Indigenous Peoples History Month in Canada. And so I invite people to reflect on that history and take in the opportunity to educate each other on the history of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit in Canada. CBC has made accessible like hundreds of videos and movies from an Indigenous worldview and lens, and directed and acted and so on and so forth on CBC Gem. And a quick acknowledgement that this is the 150-year anniversary of the signings of Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 this summer. So a little history fact for you there for any of you who might be buffs out there. But you know, if you do have a chance to take some of that in and learn and educate yourself a little bit more on our shared history, I invite you to do so this month.
Thank you very much. Great announcement. Again, it's just unfortunate that a lot of the great activities that we love to celebrate, including National Indigenous Peoples Day, we can't do the regular gatherings, but soon we'll be able to get back to that. Any other announcements? Not seeing any others. Thank you. We can move on to the next item, please.
Under the order of general business, Your Worship, the structural condition assessment for 149 10th Street.
Very good. Councillor Desjardins?
Thank you, through Your Worship. I move that funding of $12,000 to be expended from the Civic Land Acquisition Reserve for the completion of a structural condition assessment of the existing building at 149 10th Street be approved.
And seconder, please. Councillor Cameron, who wishes to speak? And we may have a member of administration that could give us a highlight on this if you like. But
through Your Worship, I don't know if we need to. I'd let council decide. I mean, this is the old bowling alley, the structure underneath the parking lot, the property that where the Strand Theater used to be for the BU project is coming back to the city under our purview. And in order to ensure that that parking lot can remain viable and it's safe, they want to do a proper structural and foundation assessment on the bowling alley that lies underneath. And so this 12 grand would be expended to do that and make sure that the parking lot can continue operating while we search for alternative opportunities for development there.
Well, that was well explained. Thank you very much. And I'll note that if members of council did have questions, Mr. Nicol and Mr. Pulak would be available to do so, but fairly straightforward, and Councillor Desjardins has explained it very well. Councillor Chaboyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to the engineering department, I guess. We're looking at getting assessment done, you know, to make sure it's safe for a parking lot. Has there also been an appetite or interest in looking at the cost it would be to pull it out of there, pull that building out of there and fill it in properly? Just wanted to know if that was part of the discussion.
Very good question. So we'd either maybe get Mr. Pulak or Mr. Nicol. Mr. Nicol is ready for us, so go ahead, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through to Councillor Chaboy. We did do some estimates on demolition costs as part of the previous procurement process, and the cost range anywhere from $300,000 to $1 million, depending on what's exactly going on there and the type of process. I guess they're choosing to demolish it. I mean, some of the complexity is the kind of the supporting walls right next to the right of way, and there's some different ideas as well as have to get a sense of hazardous materials. So right now the idea is to remain status quo with exploring development options for both sides, understanding that potentially a development group could use that existing building, but like for parking, and the structural assessment could do the analysis to see how much would need to be invested to make it safe longer term for that type of use.
Yeah, thanks for that. Because I just, you know, how often do we have to do an assessment? I'm always kind of leery about that building sitting there not being used and vehicles sitting on top of it. So this $12,000 assessment that we have to have done, are we going to have to do it annually or every 5 years? Or I have no idea how long an assessment like that lasts.
Yeah, through Your Worship, to Councillor Chaboy, hopefully we don't have to do it annually, and it would recommend improvements that hopefully will last us a little bit of time. There is a business case here because it seems that there's revenue from the parking lot, and we know that it takes a while to find developers, especially at this location. So it seems like it's something that we should be able to recoup the costs through revenue from leasing those parking stalls.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions that might be posed to Mr. Nicol? Yeah, not seeing any. So I think we're probably, I'll let the mover close if you had anything to add, Councillor Desjardins.
No, I'm good.
Apparently not. Okay, I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Is the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program funding opportunity?
I'd like to make that motion. Councillor Fawcett, go ahead. You're on mute, Jeff.
You can see I wasn't really planning on doing this one. Okay. Thank you, through your worship here. Whereas Echo West Canada has been working on an electric vehicle program for Manitoba municipalities for the installation of level 2 and or level 3 electric vehicle chargers. Whereas pending Echo West Canada contracts with NRCan to fund its ZVIP electric charging station program Manitoba for charging stations, as well as managing services, online portal, and payment systems for the stations for a period of up to 5 years. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Brandon will work with Echo West Canada in the development of a local regional EV hub, as well as identify the location or locations of the installation and operation of EV charging stations, either on land that is owned by the municipality or to which it will be granted access for said period of 5 years. Be it further resolved that as part of the 2022 budget, the city will contribute up to $100,000 for this project, subject to funding matching as outlined in the ZVIP electric vehicle charging station program.
Thank you very much. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Cameron. Sorry, the screen's going a little fuzzy. I think we do have the administration that did work on this program. Lindsay Hargraves is with us. I'm not sure if Lindsay didn't mean to preempt. Sometimes we put a motion on and then get presentation and vice versa. So wasn't sure if Lindsay was going to provide us some highlights or whether she was just here to answer questions.
I can provide highlights.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. We have been presented with a funding opportunity for electric vehicle charging. The background, Natural Resource Canada has another round of applications for the ZVIP program, Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program. This is to build the network across Canada. This is a partial funding program and is up to 50% per charging station, depending on the type of charger applied for. Eco West Canada is a nonprofit company submitting a proposal for private sector or municipalities in Manitoba. Eco West will manage the quoting process and contract distribution process for the chargers. Funding for the EV chargers, level 2, the total cost per charger for level 2 is approximately $15,000. Subtract the $5,000 rebate and it's $10,000 to the participant. A level 3, the total cost is anywhere between $30,000 to $150,000 with 50% back. We are looking at the fast charger with the 50 kilowatts. So we'll be getting $50,000 back per charger, and we're requesting funding for 2 chargers. Currently, there are EV chargers located in Brandon. The level 2 is at Brandon Shoppers Mall, Murray Chevrolet, Kelleher Ford, the Comfort Inn, and the new Service Canada building by the South and Boston Pizza. There are 2 level 3 fast chargers, Petro Canada and the Tesla one at the Krell Center. Heritage Co-op on Richmond is tentatively putting in 2. It's just currently under construction. And in this round of proposals, the McDonald's on the North Hill is also going in for funding as well. You can find more information about the chargers at plugshare.com or ChargeHub. Our proposed locations are City Hall and AR McDermott Complex. We're also open to suggestions. The City Hall, just giving if outsiders were to come in for a meeting, such as the Premier. The AR McDermott Complex could also be a downtown location, as there's currently no chargers in the downtown area. And it could also expand on our, if we go to have any electric vehicles in the future in our own fleet. The costs, additional costs outside the charger includes an annual maintenance fee of approximately $750 per year. Installation of the charger depends on access to power and any modifications if necessary. The chargers are not necessarily a revenue source. Currently in Manitoba, you can only charge for time, not kilowatt hours. Next steps, the application deadline is June 22nd, so that's coming up really quick. Funding confirmation, we'll hear about that in the fall of 2021. Requests for quotes will be in the spring of 2022, and the project implementation would not happen until the second quarter of 2022. If we do not take part in this round, there is another round, or want to take part in both rounds. The next application deadline is May of 2022, and all of this funding is scheduled to wrap up by 2024. I can take any other.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hargreaves. And so we will open the floor for questions of Lindsay on this. I had a prior presentation on this, so we're a little bit familiar with the program. We may have it covered. Councillor Fawcett, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship, to Ms. Hargreaves. Now, Lindsay, you sort of implied that we're open to suggestions still on that. Is there a way for getting some public suggestions? Our internal debate was quite a bit about, are we looking at local consumption on some of these, or are we looking at traveler consumption? So I don't know, it would be interesting to get some input other than from just us on council. What are your thoughts?
Your worship, to Councillor Fawcett. Like I said, we are on a tight timeline. For the application, we'll be putting those two locations, but we can change it as long as we justify it to Natural Resource Canada over the next couple of months. We could put it to the public, but it also depends on like the power source and how we can get any additional cost to that as well. It has to be for public use.
Yeah. Right on. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Fawcett. I think we all know this is going to be the thinnest edge of the wedge. Like, this is going to certainly burgeon out quickly over time, and this will be probably the first of many, many, many that we see in our community. So obviously the public will get more engaged on this as time goes on, but this will be certainly a start for city properties at least. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Hargreaves. Just for the benefit of the public on this as well, just to confirm, these are the non-Tesla charging stations, right? Like I know you gave council a little bit of information on it, but it's a different system, correct?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Cameron, yes. This is for the more universal type of fast charger that can charge within 30 minutes to an hour, whereas the ones at the Corral Centre are just if you own a Tesla.
Okay, thank you.
Started to sound like cell phone chargers here, but eventually we'll get that figured out, I think. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up for questions of Lindsay, so thank you very much for that presentation. We'll go back to the main motion now on the floor, moved by Councillor Fawcett. Any discussion, any further discussion on that? If not, I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
A request for the extension of city services and utilities beyond the city limits by the RM of Cornwallis on behalf of VBJ Developments Limited.
Very good. Again, sometimes we reverse the order on this. I'm not sure if the administration had presentation to make on this. This is just sort of the beginning of asking administration to analyze this for us. We'll come back to council anyways, but wasn't sure if Ryan or Patrick had some comments they wanted to make in advance of council considering the motion. Probably not.
Oh, Ryan. Ryan does.
Okay, sorry.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Worship. I was a little bit sneaky there with my hand up, but just want to give just a really quick overview here. So City Council has a policy on extending services beyond city limits. So as you stated, this is the first step. So this is receiving the request, and the next step would be circulation to city departments and providing feedback. So the one thing I would note is that the policy is fairly general and it doesn't specify timelines. So understanding, I think this is a timely matter and how it's being brought forward, that if council want to provide some guidance on when it came back, administration would be fine with that. I did take it on myself to start involving some of the other departments a little bit earlier here, just in case council decided to move forward. So we're not, unjustly putting people through delays. So I'm just opening that up for consideration by council if they want to provide some direction on when this item is coming back.
Sorry about that. I lost the connection once again. Never happened to me before, and it's twice in one meeting. So sorry, I kind of coming in from behind here. So I do see I've got Councillor Barry and Councillor Chaboy, their hands up. Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I was my hands up. I was going to move the motion to accept the motion as was. So if you want to do that now.
Yeah, that would be fine. But
Okay.
again, I apologize if I missed any other questions or presentation. I gather Mr. Nichol was available for questions, but you go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Okay, thank you. I move that the service sharing request from the RM of Cornwallis on behalf of VBJ Development Limited be received and referred to administration for evaluation and report back to council.
Thank you. And
if possible, if the report back to council can be, I know timeline's tight on this, by our meeting in July.
Councillor, Mr. Nichols shaking his head in the affirmative, so I think that's what they're hoping to do.
If that's fair, I hope.
So you're adding that to the motion,
Yes,
Barry?
please. Yeah.
Okay, we've added that then, please. And now I need a seconder, please. Councillor Cullen. And the mover wish to speak?
Yeah, just real briefly, Your Worship, because Mr. Nichol explained it as is. There's some meetings that have to take part here between the city and Cornwallis and VBJ with the report to come back. I think until we have that report, there really isn't a whole lot of discussion to have until we get that report back from administration and then get more into either whether it's an informal discussion or that of the formal discussion at a council meeting in July. But without all the information and responses and that, it's really hard to have a discussion on this.
Yeah, the intention was really to get council's willingness to allow the process to go forward. If there was no interest at all on the part of council, obviously, then it wouldn't be wasting our administration's time, Cornwallis's time, VBJ time. They would have to just kind of move on to plan B. But if this passes, then the parties will begin to work together in a more detailed fashion and come back to council with those details. Other discussion? Now, I had Councillor Chaboy with her hand up, and
Yes.
then Councillor Fawcett.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Mr. Nicol. It was a question I had for you, Ryan. I know that this has got to be expedited fairly quickly, but at the same time, when we work with other RMs and service agreements are important, and part of that importance is making sure that we recoup the appropriate costs from outside neighbors and municipalities, just like, for the RM of Cornwallis or anywhere for fire protection and other services. So is this going to give you enough time to have a quick, have a good look at this to ensure that when you provide a report back that we can make a sound decision that, that the taxpayers are going to embrace it? Because I think in principle it's a great recreational opportunity, but at the same time we want to make sure that our costs are looked after.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Chaboy. Just to clarify for council, this is a 3-step process, the way it's set up in the policy. So it's kind of like if you think about amending a bylaw, you give it first reading, which is like accepting it, which is what's kind of coming today. And then the second part of this is administration actually is not actively going out and working right now with the developer and the RM. We're just circulating all the internal departments to come forward with a recommendation. And part of that recommendation would include the terms and conditions that I think you're thinking of, Councillor Chaboy, like the terms and conditions related to ensuring competitive fairness.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to extend services and create a competitive disadvantage for other taxpayers or groups developing in the city of Brandon. In terms of constructing the infrastructure timelines, who's responsible for what. So there would be a series of recommended conditions. And then if council agreed, you'd provide administration direction to go with these conditions to the RM and the applicant VBJ and negotiate an agreement. And then from that, we would bring back the final agreement, which would be like third reading of the bylaw, where council can consider if you want to sign this thing off and actually do it.
Okay, so this is just step one. Absolutely, I understand now. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Fawcett, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship. Something much less pressing for Ryan here is just we haven't dug out our city procedure on the extension of city-owned utilities or services beyond city limits for a long time. It was, effective date April 21st, 1986. So we might have some little amendments that come forward in that after the fact here too. Just the fact that Brandon area planning no longer exists and stuff like that through there. So you don't know that till you pull them out, and that one hasn't been pulled out in a long time. So little things there. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fawcett. Any other questions of Mr. Nicol or just in general?
No.
Not seeing any others at the moment. Thank you very much, Ryan. Back to the main motion then. Is there further discussion? Not seeing any other. I think we're probably ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Next item, please. You're on mute, Madam Clerk. There you go.
There. Okay, sorry. Under the order of bylaws, Your Worship, bylaw number 7297, which is to repeal all the inactive reserve bylaws.
Very good. Who wants to move this very interesting one? Councillor Lupke, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw number 7297 to repeal inactive reserve bylaws be read a first time.
Seconder, please. Councillor Parker. Again, this is just first reading, gets it started, and we will embrace ourselves for repealing the lakes to create a reserve fund for the 1967 centennial celebrations and others like that. So it's kind of an interesting house cleaning exercise. But again, we don't debate first reading, so we're going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I didn't even mention that we had people on council that weren't even born when some of these bylaws were originally put in place. So I'll leave that for another day. Next item, please.
Bylaw number 7301, which is to rezone property located east of Lark Street and west of Glen Avenue.
Councillor Fawcett, go ahead. You're muted too, Jeff.
Good. That's good. Okay, there we go. That bylaw number 7301 to rezone property located at Lot 1, Plan 48496 BLTO from Parks and Recreation to Residential Mobile Modular Home Zone be read a second time. And further, that third reading of this bylaw be held in abeyance pending the owner or successor entering into a development agreement with the City of Brandon subject to the following conditions. And there is 5 conditions that follow there. And that the administration be authorized to prepare a development agreement containing all conditions and requirements to protect the city's interest in accordance with any procedures, policies, bylaws, and acts.
Well presented. Seconder, please. Councillor Parker. Any discussion on second reading? A mover wish to speak?
Thank you, through your worship. So we will get third reading on this. I do know there was some people that were looking to speak to this at some points, so third reading is still coming. So it is just a project on some land that is really not of any use to any other people. So it's just trying to work with the community to improve that area a bit.
And again, I didn't want to preempt administration if they had planned on adding something to this. Sometimes Mr. Nickel does. You're welcome to do so. If not, we can proceed. Okay, not seeing anybody jumping forward, so
no.
Okay. I think we're any other discussion on this second reading? It will have to come back to us for third reading after the development agreement is signed anyways. Ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And next item, please.
Bylaw number 7304, which is several text amendments to zoning bylaw number 7124.
And just first reading in order, who would like to move this one? Councillor Parker, go ahead. You're on mute there, Councillor Parker. There you go. No, off again. You're still muted, Glenn.
Jan can do it.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Chouet.
Okay, I move that bylaw number 7304 to amend zoning bylaw number 7124 to increase efficiency of land uses and processing development approvals be read a first time.
And seconder, please. Councillor Lupke, thank you. Again, first reading gets the process started. No debate typically, so we're going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
And under bylaw 7305, which is map updates to the zoning bylaw.
And who'd like to tackle that one? Councillor Fawcett. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. That bylaw number 7305 to rezone the following properties be read a first time. Now, and there is quite a number of properties in there.
Yeah, I think you could probably just say as listed. This is just first reading.
Yeah, it just, so as listed for first reading.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Cameron. Again, first reading only, so we won't debate this at this time. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And next item, please.
Giving of notice, Your Worship.
Any giving of notice this evening? Councillor Desjardins, have your hand up there, or? Okay, it's down now. Not seeing any other giving of notice, so we move on to the next item, please.
A motion to adjourn would be in order, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Chaboyer. Get some people back to the last period of one of the hockey games. So all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Once again, it's not always easy getting these virtual meetings, but we've gotten fairly good at it. So thank you very much for all your patience, especially our staff. Not everybody's aware of back at Mission Control. There's other people. Amber is back there twisting dials and keeping it all working. So thank you very much, Amber, and anybody else that might be helping you back at, as they call it, Mission Control. Thank you all, and good evening.
Good evening. Good night, everybody.